If you have ever looked up at the night sky and wondered whether we are alone in the universe, then you are not the only one carrying that curiosity. All over the world, from barren deserts to tightly guarded military bases, there have been countless witnesses who claim to have seen with their own eyes or even made contact with beings from another world. Whether hidden away in top-secret government files or handed down as legends through generations, the mysteries surrounding extraterrestrials have always challenged the imagination and raised a multitude of questions that remain unanswered. Today, we will explore some of history's most remarkable encounters with beings from beyond our world. So fasten your seatbelt as we dive into today's mystery. But first, you'll have incredible luck if you like and subscribe before this video ends. Betty and Barney Hill. In 1960, Betty and Barney Hill were living a quiet life in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Betty was in her early 40s and worked in social services, while Barney, 3 years younger, was a postal worker and an active advocate for civil rights. They both led private lives and rarely shared much about themselves with others. But on one autumn night in 1961, everything familiar to them was about to vanish forever. That evening, they were returning home from a short trip to Niagara Falls with their small dog. As they drove along an empty stretch of highway through the White Mountains, something completely unexpected appeared. It was around 10:30 p.m. when Betty noticed a strange light in the sky. The light hovered near the moon, then suddenly started to move. At first, she thought it might be a shooting star, but then it changed direction and began to grow larger, so much so that she couldn't look away. Betty told Barney to pull over, and when she looked through their binoculars, she saw that the object had the shape of a disc with many lights along its side. Barney, who was a war veteran and had served in World War II, initially guessed that it was a satellite or an experimental aircraft. But as the object quietly moved closer, until it was just about 100 feet from them, Barney knew all of his earlier guesses no longer made sense. Barney got out of the car, holding a handgun. Looking up at the strange craft through the binoculars, he froze when he saw what was behind the windows. Beings shaped like people. They were small, with large heads, dressed in gray uniforms and had deep black eyes. Barney didn't hear any sound, but a voice seemed to echo inside his head, telling him to put down the gun. Terrified, he ran back to the car and yelled that they had to leave immediately. But just as Barney started the engine, a loud beeping sound came from behind them, and both he and Betty suddenly felt their bodies freeze. They couldn't move or even think, and then they both passed out. When they regained consciousness, Betty and Barney realized they were more than 30 miles away from where they had first stopped, with no memory of how they had gotten there. Their watches had both stopped at the same time. Betty's dress was torn at the zipper and covered in a strange pink powder, and Barney's shoes were scuffed as if he had walked across sharp rocks. When they finally got home, they discovered they had arrived more than 3 hours later than expected. 2 hours were simply missing, and neither of them could explain what had happened during that time. After that night, Betty began having vivid dreams for 5 nights in a row. In her dreams, she and her husband were taken aboard a shiny metallic craft, where strange beings with gray skin and large eyes performed medical tests on both of them. Betty woke up and wrote down every detail but was afraid to tell Barney, worried he would think she was losing her mind. Meanwhile, Barney suffered from insomnia and exhaustion, while the weight of memories he couldn't quite reach continued to haunt him. By November, the couple decided to seek help from an organization that studied unexplained aerial phenomena. Investigators quickly realized that what should have been a 4-hour drive had turned into a 7-hour ordeal, and the biggest question was what really happened during those lost hours. 2 years later, they went to see Dr. Benjamin Simon, a renowned psychiatrist in Boston, hoping to find answers for their fear. Through several separate hypnosis sessions, their memories of that strange night slowly came back. Both recalled being taken aboard a craft with curved corridors and blinding white lights. The extraterrestrial beings performed bizarre medical experiments on their bodies. Betty remembered the pain of a long needle piercing her stomach, while Barney felt a strange device being placed on his abdomen. Both also described the beings' curiosity about Barney's dentures and even the color of their skin. There was one detail that made the story even more mysterious. Betty recounted being shown a 3-dimensional star map. One being, whom she called the Leader, pointed out stars connected by straight lines as if tracing interstellar trade routes, while under hypnosis, Betty drew this map with stars of different sizes. Years later, an astronomer named Marjorie Fish studied Betty's sketch and suggested it matched the Zeta Reticuli star system, located about 40 light-years from Earth. Later, the Hubble telescope even confirmed that the stars Betty drew existed in that region. Still, some scientists believed the map was too vague to draw any final conclusions. Many theories have been proposed. Some psychologists argued that Betty and Barney had experienced a shared hallucination brought on by stress and anxiety. Others believed the story was a product of Betty's imagination and that Barney simply went along with his wife's feelings. However, under hypnosis, the details in their accounts were strangely consistent, and Dr. Simon confirmed that neither showed signs of lying. There were also skeptics who suspected they made up the story for attention, but at that time, sharing an alien abduction story only brought trouble, and the Hills never profited from their experience. Today, many UFO researchers believe Betty and Barney truly went through something science still can't explain. They see the star map and the pink powder as possible evidence of contact with extraterrestrial life. More than 60 years later, the story of Betty and Barney Hill remains one of the greatest mysteries of modern America. Their experience has inspired countless books, films, and endless debate. Perhaps no one will ever know exactly what happened on that fateful night. Did Betty and Barney really get taken aboard a spaceship, or was it all the product of fear and the imagination? Whatever the truth, their story will live on for a long time, at least until humanity finally comes face to face with beings from another world. The Devil's Footprints in East Devon. On February 9, 1855, as the people of rural East Devon began what should have been an ordinary day, they quickly realized that something was very wrong. Across the pristine white snow, a series of strange footprints had appeared overnight. These prints stretched along narrow village streets, crossed open fields, climbed over rooftops, and even slid over tall walls or disappeared into tiny drain pipes. The footprints resembled nothing anyone had ever seen before. They looked like the marks of a cloven hoof, arranged in a single straight line, snaking through more than 30 villages and small towns. No one could explain where they had come from or how they managed to cross obstacles that neither man nor beast could navigate. The prints themselves looked like hoof marks, each one about 4 inches long and just over 3 inches wide. What truly amazed people was that they didn't just appear on flat ground. They could be found on snow-covered rooftops, crossing fences, and going over walls as high as 13 feet. In some places, the trail led into pipes barely wide enough for a wrist, then reappeared on the other side, as if whatever left them could change shape or vanish into thin air. News spread quickly. Many believed they were witnessing the traces of Satan himself, since the cloven hoof had long been a symbol of the devil in the Bible. Fear rippled through local churches, and ministers delivered sermons warning of God's punishment and reminding the faithful to stay vigilant. Within days, not only locals, but also scientists, and the simply curious from farther away, flocked to the area to see and investigate the mystery firsthand. Many groups tried to follow the prints for miles, but no one could cover the entire trail in a single day. Eyewitnesses described the footprints in various ways. Some thought they looked like donkey hooves, others said they resembled wooden clogs, but everyone agreed they were deeply strange. Several scientific theories were proposed. Biologist Richard Owen suggested the prints might have been made by hungry badgers searching for food on a winter's night. But badgers can't climb walls, rooftops, or squeeze through narrow pipes. Later, researcher Mike Dash reviewed original documents and wondered if the marks might have come from field mice hopping across the snow, leaving tracks that resembled hoof prints. But he too admitted that mice could never travel such a great distance in a single night. Another biologist, Graham Inglis, compared the Devon marks to hare tracks discovered in 2009 in North Devon. But again, hares couldn't move so steadily for such a distance, nor overcome so many obstacles. Those who believed in the supernatural argued that this was either a prank by the devil or real evidence of a demonic presence. That fear only grew stronger given the strict religious atmosphere of the time, when anything unexplainable was quickly blamed on the devil or seen as a miracle from God. A more daring theory was that the prints might have been left by an alien creature or that a UFO had landed, leaving marks behind. However, no one in the area reported any strange lights or flying objects that night, so the theory remained purely speculative. Some people thought it was an elaborate prank. Maybe someone had used a special tool to stamp out the tracks and frighten the villages. But for a single person to cover more than 100 kilometers of rough terrain in freezing weather without leaving any trace but the prints themselves seemed even harder to believe. Nearly 2 centuries have passed, and the mystery of the Devil's Footprints in East Devon has never been fully explained. The case has become part of local legend, and for people in the region, the story comes up again and again every winter. Were those tracks a practical joke, or were they the signs of a mysterious creature never recorded by science? Some still believe the marks are a message from distant stars, while others think they're nothing more than animal prints exaggerated over generations. But one thing is certain, the story of the Devil's Footprints remains an unsolved mystery to this day. The mystery of the Nazca Lines. If you stand in the middle of the Nazca Plateau today, all your senses are overwhelmed by a harsh yellow, endless sand with winds blowing ceaselessly and not a single tree in sight. The air feels as if it has been frozen in time for centuries. Located between the small towns of Nazca and Palpa in southern Peru, this region stretches over 50 square kilometers and has seen hardly a drop of rain in generations. Yet nearly 2,000 years ago, this barren place was once home to a thriving culture. The Nazca people were highly advanced and left behind marks that have endured through the ages. They built underground irrigation systems to bring water to their fields. They crafted exquisite pottery, made jewelry from gold, and worshipped nature gods with rituals that were both sacred and, at times, unsettling, even involving human sacrifice. However, around the year 800 AD, the Nazca civilization quietly disappeared, leaving behind, in the heart of the desert, giant geoglyphs whose true meaning the world still cannot explain. The Spanish first noticed these strange marks as early as the 16th century, but it wasn't until the 20th century, when commercial flights began to cross the skies over Peru, that the secrets on the ground truly came to light. From the windows of airplanes, passengers were astonished to see lines, spirals, and even enormous human figures stretched across the golden dust of the desert. This was when Nazca emerged from the distant past and became one of humanity's most famous mysteries. The Nazca Lines are a collection of over 700 distinct motifs. You'll find a hummingbird longer than 300 feet, a giant spider with a 46-meter body, and even a human figure with an oversized head, drawn as if for someone or something looking down from the sky. How the Nazca people created these figures continues to amaze scientists. They simply cleared away the dark stones that covered the surface, revealing the white sand beneath. The arid climate of Nazca preserved the drawings for thousands of years, keeping them sharp and clear to this day. But what puzzles everyone is how a culture without modern technology could produce images so massive that they can only be seen clearly from hundreds of feet above. Incredibly, some of the details are so fine they require a microscope to spot. For example, in the drawing of the spider, biologists found anatomical features of a Riccinuli spider, a species that only lives in the Amazon, more than 900 miles away from Nazca. From the moment these lines were recorded, archaeologists have been drawn into the mystery. Maria Reich, the woman known as the Lady of Nazca, devoted her entire life to measuring and mapping these drawings, making Nazca a global subject of fascination. Maria believed that the lines were closely linked to astronomy. She thought that the straight lines pointed to where the sun or constellations would rise and set on the horizon. Each animal figure, in her view, symbolized a star cluster or a natural phenomenon. However, many later studies came to different conclusions. Two renowned astronomers, Gerald Hawkins and Anthony Aveni, after analyzing hundreds of drawings, concluded there wasn't enough evidence to support a clear astronomical connection. Yet the biggest question remains: why did the Nazca people draw these images, and who were they for? Many other theories have emerged, each one opening a new branch for the human imagination. Some suggest these were religious rituals, prayers etched into the earth for the gods in the sky, with the giant drawings meant to be seen from above. However, not everyone accepts the religious explanation. The most controversial theory claims that the lines were runways or signals for alien spacecraft landing on Earth. According to this view, the giant human figure in Nazca is actually an ancient astronaut, and the huge straight lines are nothing more than guides or beacons for visitors from space. The whole Nazca Plateau in this light looks like an ancient airport abandoned in the desert. Even stranger, German scientists discovered that the magnetic field and electrical conductivity in Nazca are 800 times higher than in surrounding regions, pointing to a geological phenomenon that no one has explained. If not aliens, Did the Nazca people discover something about the Earth's energy that we have yet to understand? Some even compare the mandala-like figures in Nazca to cosmic symbols found in other cultures around the world. In recent years, modern technology has added new layers to the Nazca mystery. Artificial intelligence and drones have helped scientists discover more than 300 new figures, including human forms and two-headed snakes, bringing the total number of geoglyphs to over 1,000. With every new discovery come more questions about the purpose and remarkable creativity of a lost civilization. Perhaps the secret of Nazca will continue to challenge humanity for generations to come. We may never have a final answer, but the beauty and enigma of Nazca will always leave the world in awe. The Rendlesham Forest UFO Incident. In late December of 1980, as England remained gripped by the cold of winter and the ever-present anxiety of the Cold War, the woods of Rendlesham in Suffolk became the stage for a mysterious event that would haunt both the military and civilians for decades to come. It all began in the early hours of December 26th. At the east gate of RAF Woodbridge, a security patrol unexpectedly spotted beams of red light piercing through the dense trees of Rendlesham Forest. At first, they assumed it was the sign of a downed aircraft, but what happened next was beyond anything they could have imagined. Sergeant Jim Peniston, along with John Burroughs, drove into the forest to investigate the source of the light, only to find themselves standing before a strange object hovering just a few feet above the ground. The object was triangular, its metallic surface gleaming and emitting lights of every color. According to Peniston, he walked up to it, even touching its warm exterior and seeing strange symbols, like hieroglyphs engraved on its hull. Suddenly, the object flashed a bright light and vanished toward a nearby storage building. When Peniston and Burroughs returned to base, they filed a report, but described what they saw simply as a mechanical, luminous object, and were ordered to remain completely silent about the incident. However, what unfolded 2 nights later would turn the event into an enduring mystery. On the night of December 28th, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, accompanied by a small team equipped with an audio recorder and radiation meter, entered the forest after reports that strange lights had appeared once again. There, they witnessed a series of bizarre phenomena. Bright beams of light moved among the trees, a glowing red object as bright as the sun hovered over the canopy, and a laser-like beam shot straight down to the ground, landing near where they stood. The object seemed to drip molten material and moved with an intelligence unlike any aircraft known to man. Their Geiger counter registered radiation levels 10 times higher than normal at what was believed to be the landing site, and on the ground, 3 triangular indentations were left behind. Other witnesses described seeing a transparent craft nearly 30 feet long touching down, and one person claimed to have filmed the event, though the footage never surfaced publicly. The incident quickly became a hot topic in both the military and the media. The British Ministry of Defense launched an investigation, but ultimately concluded that the event posed no threat to national security and did not warrant further attention. Lieutenant Colonel Halt submitted a detailed memo to the ministry, which was only made public in 1983 under the Freedom of Information Act. Yet, the accounts of that strange night were not entirely consistent. Peniston initially said the object was simply a mechanical device, but years later claimed to have seen alien symbols. Burroughs didn't recall as many details as Peniston, and in various interviews, Colonel Halt's description of the object's movements did not always match those of the others. Another witness, Larry Warren, even stated he saw extraterrestrial beings, but many at the base dismissed his claims as he was not present that night. Thousands of UFO-related documents were declassified from 2008 to 2013, but crucial files relating to Rendlesham were missing, leading skeptics to believe in a possible government cover-up. Over the decades, researchers have tried to decode the event, but the absence of physical evidence, such as debris, clear photographs, or authentic footage, has left everything shrouded in doubt. In 2017, an independent group returned to the forest and recorded strange lights on infrared cameras, as well as triangular marks on the ground, but the video was widely considered staged. Theories have split in many directions. Those who believe in UFOs are convinced this was evidence of an extraterrestrial craft approaching a British military base, possibly even spying on NATO's nuclear weapons. In contrast, skeptics argue that the whole affair was an unusual coincidence involving the Orford Ness Lighthouse, which is 8 kilometers away and flashes every 5 seconds, perfectly matching Halt's description of the lights. The indentations in the ground might have been from rabbits or old patrol vehicles, and the radiation readings upon further review did not exceed safe levels. Some have suggested that the Rendlesham incident was nothing more than a chain of misunderstandings, anxieties, and collective imagination running wild in a highly stressful environment. But even now, no one can explain the initial consistency of the witness reports. More than 40 years have passed, and Rendlesham Forest remains one of the most famous and mysterious UFO cases in modern British history. No one can say for certain what truly happened in those woods. Did American servicemen really come face to face with a craft from another world? Are there still secrets locked away in files never meant to be released? Orbs of light over the Himalayas. This story began in August 2011 along the tense border between India and China high in the Himalayas. During cold, restless nights on patrol, Indian border guards started noticing something unusual. They saw mysterious orbs of light appearing again and again in the sky. At first, some thought it was just an illusion or a trick of the weather. But as the glowing orbs continued to show up with regularity, skepticism quickly turned into real obsession. The soldiers tried using radar and infrared cameras to record the phenomenon, but the results were always inconclusive. And it wasn't only the military that noticed something strange. Villagers around the Thakong area began telling stories about these mysterious balls of light. They described glowing objects that would drift slowly above the mountain peaks or hover over lakes, only to suddenly vanish without a trace. For many locals, these lights brought to mind old legends of the Holy Mountain Lights, part of their belief in the sacred power of this remote land. But what was even more unusual was that the phenomenon didn't stop on the Indian side. Chinese military units stationed in the Aksai Chin region also started reporting the appearance of glowing orbs on their side of the border. Some sources claim that China had secretly reached out to NASA for help analyzing the phenomenon, but there was never any official confirmation from either country. Both nations monitored the strange lights closely and eyed each other with suspicion, yet neither could offer a reasonable explanation. Patrol units sent detailed reports back to the Ministry of Defense in New Delhi, describing exactly what they had seen. Soon, scientists from the Indian Institute of Astrophysics and the National Observatory were sent to the border to study the bizarre events. They hoped science would provide answers, but after careful inspection, they found no strange signals on radar or by satellite. A year later, the Institute of Astronomy concluded that the lights could simply be an atmospheric phenomenon or plasma caused by the high altitude and intense magnetic fields of the Himalayas. Still, the question remained, if these orbs were only a natural occurrence, why did they show up so regularly and move as if with intelligence? While scientists were left puzzled, international UFO researchers began to take an interest. Many articles compared this event to famous UFO cases in the US and Europe. Some even referenced the 1980 Rendlesham Forest incident, when British soldiers also saw strange lights near a nuclear base. As the phenomenon continued into 2012, the number of reports gradually declined, but the questions surrounding the origin of these UFOs persisted. The boldest and most controversial theory suggested that the glowing orbs were proof of a secret alien base hidden deep within the Himalayas. Some UFO researchers linked the lights to ancient legends of the Yeti, claiming these were supernatural signs long believed by mountain people to belong to another world. They speculated that extraterrestrials chose the Himalayas because it was remote, nearly inaccessible, and a strategic hotspot between two nuclear powers. While there is no concrete evidence, theories about UFOs continued to spread widely on social media and international forums. On the other hand, many cautious voices argued that this was nothing more than the result of collective psychology or confusion in harsh weather conditions. Yet with over 100 independent reports, from soldiers to villagers, all describing the orbs in remarkably similar terms, that explanation seemed less convincing. More than a decade has passed, but the mystery of the UFOs over the India-China border in 2011 remains unsolved. The reports remain locked in military archives. The stories still make headlines in international media, but clear physical evidence is nowhere to be found. Are these orbs of light signals from a secret alien base, or simply the product of undisclosed military technology? For now, no one can say for sure. Thank you for taking the time to explore with us. If the mysteries of extraterrestrial life have sparked your curiosity, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of the fascinating stories in our upcoming episodes. There are still so many cosmic mysteries waiting for you to discover.